There we are. Happy, it's not Friday, is it? Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. I was just having such a struggle trying to get set up because something changed. Well, it's a bit of a complicated show today because I'm going to be working on a frame and I'm going to be talking to you and I'm going to be showing slides. And somebody needed to, I don't know if you can see this, somebody needed to sit here. So it made it a little bit difficult, um, you know, for me to sit here too. I just had to rearrange the plugs and everything else because I know if I don't accommodate Buttons the dog, he is going to make a nuisance of himself. So here we are. Welcome back. Are you excited? I'm quite excited because although I no longer feel that this is a great mystery, it doesn't change the fact that this technique that we're about to try, we have tried, but we're going to try it in a different way. It doesn't change the fact that this could be something that could be extremely useful for rug hookers, and it just could be another very easy trick for your bag of tricks. So I am eager. Cheryl, great to see you. Happy Monday. How's the Cape this morning? Melissa, great to see you. Good morning. Almost lunchtime. It is. I was just having my energy drink to keep me going here. Little snow this morning. So beautiful. I love the piece that you're working on right now. I love seeing stuff on Facebook. Sharon, great to see you. Good morning. Lisa, good morning. Great to see you. Rita, great to see you. Oh, so many buddies here this morning. Linda B, happy Monday from winter's on the way, New Jersey. Absolutely. When I was driving home last night, oh God, what a day yesterday. A few little snowflakes were dancing around, and I thought, what is that? Garbage? Because it wasn't that cold, and I'm thinking, what is blowing around? Because the other day when I was driving around, it was the coolest sight. I wish I could have taken a picture. It was so awful, but it was so cool. I was driving, I got onto the main road from our little village, and there was like white stuff everywhere. It was in the air, it was everywhere. My first thought was cherry blossoms. And I was like, oh my, it was insane how much of this white stuff was all over the place. It was packing peanuts, like those white packing peanuts. Something must have fallen or exploded or something. I mean, the road was covered with packing. It was like there was a concrete mixer that was filled with packing peanuts, and it like somehow exploded 2 cars ahead of me because it was snowing. That's so awful for the environment, but it was also surreal because it was like, is this snow? How many times am I going to have an is this snow moment before it actually snows here? I guess it could be infinite. So funny though. Valerie, great to see you. Good morning. Judy, good morning. Great to see you. Joyce, great to see all the buddies this morning. Patricia, great to see you this morning. I love making time for this stuff. This can be fun for me too to figure this out. I've got my little frame out. I've got everything set. I'll tell you all about that in just a second. One thing I want to tell you this morning that I have made a good decision on. I think it's a good decision. I have been since I thought the expression I'm going to use the expression in the right context, burning a candle at both ends, right? I thought it meant something to do with like having a stomach problem. I've really been burning the candle at both ends in terms of work. And I think that is the correct usage because I've been working on the current Magpie that is being transposed into our editing program, and it's about to be printed. So that'll probably be done today. That's happening. I'm already working forward to the next Magpie. We'll talk about that while we're hooking. And I'm working on a couple of books with a couple of other people. And the Rose book is almost finished. So this is a conversation about the Rose book. I'm going to send an email out later to everybody who's been working on the Rose book. I had to push the date back because we moved, and there was no way I could get that done and plan the Halloween party and get the kids into a new school. And I am the person in charge of the Christmas festival at our church. So there's quite a few moving parts right now, and I'm good with moving parts. That's one of my things that I recognize as a strength. But right now, I keep hitting walls with the Rose book because I'm getting to, there's like 70 roses. And I'm getting to places where I'm like, God, I can't find it in the email. Did this person send me the email? Did they send it to me on Facebook? Did they send it to me on my other Facebook account? Where is the piece? And then I'm emailing, and then sometimes I don't hear back for a week or more. and then it's like, oh, I never finished the piece, and it's like, oh, okay, so that's okay. But I've lost track of that. If I didn't know, like a lot of people said early on, oh, I can't do it. Like I can't do it. I'm overextended. That's fine. I've probably reassigned it. But for people that I'm just touching base with, who I didn't know you didn't finish it, that's hard because I've already written the chapter. My mother's already painted the painting of the rose that goes in the chapter, and everything's done but the rug. So I think I'm going to have to. I've encountered a couple of those in the last 24 hours, which has given me like a tight heart. So I think what I'm going to do is push it until after Christmas. I'm going to say right after Christmas, I want to see this book ready. I want it to come out. The ones that are not going to get done in time, no hard feelings, but somebody else needs to do them, or I need to do them, or I need to know um, because like for me books are income. I'm not making a huge amount of money with the regular business because things are so crazy right now, but books are something I can rely on. So when I'm not able to get a book out, that really affects me in a lot of ways. So rather than having like a break from reality in the form of a nervous breakdown, I think I'm just going to put it on pause to make sure that all of these pieces are done or being worked on. So I thought we were 100% good. And again, I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I'm just worried, and it's a bit stressful because I have a timeline for the book, and now the timeline is um, unrealistic. So if you have worked on the Rose book, I have not forgotten. When there's 70 pieces, it probably means there's 60 makers, and it's a lot to put that together. But let's talk more about that in a minute once we get started. The weirdly enough, the newest book that we've been talking about, the Spilling the Tea book that celebrates 250 years. Well, it celebrates 250 years ago, the period in America between like the settlement years and the Revolution. Those early history stories and those early heroes, those people that we maybe don't talk about often enough, not just the founding fathers, but really not really the founding fathers, but all the other people who we never talk about. Those designs are coming along fast. Those assignments are going fast, and that is getting done really quickly. I'm more worried about the rose book right now. So always be in touch with me if you're thinking like, well, let me take a rose. If you're stressed, we can do that because now I'm going to put the deadline more like the very beginning of January. I hope to have everything done at the beginning of January because I'm putting up a rose book show for the entire month of January and February, and that will be at the Unitarian Society in Hartford. That's my church, and there will be a show, there will be a talk, there will be an event, there will be a video, and for anybody who has a rose that they send to me, and I will reach out to you individually, that you want to sell, no pressure. You don't have to sell anything. But if you're thinking, oh, it's just one of a million things I have, I'd like to sell it. If someone wants it, I'd like to sell it. Then you should try to sell it. We can put a price tag on it. So that can happen too. It gets good visibility for 2 full months, right? 60 days at least, because January's got 31, right? So well, February has less, so maybe it is 60 days. But I think that'll be a lot of fun, and a lot of people will see it because there are constant services, concerts, candlelight concerts, events, and it is always locked and secure, the space. So be thinking about that. In the meantime, there's so many things going on, so many things for us to think about, but I just don't want people thinking that once I start a project, I forgot. I don't forget anything. I'm like a giant elephant. I don't forget anything. It's just a question of there's nothing that I do that is my own alone. Everything involves a lot of other people. So I have to be kind of on the same page with other people, and usually a lot of other people. So it makes it a little bit tricky, but I still love work. I always will love working with lots of people on these big projects. It's just, yeah, it can be tricky. Morning fruit shake. All right, let's do this. So let me catch up a little bit too. Okay, let's see. Wait a minute, I second that. Patricia, good morning. Oh, Karen, good to see you, Karen. Windy and crisp, but beautiful day in Black Forest, Colorado. I second that. Patricia, DMS. Oh, Diane. Laptop died. Using phone. Still reworking my magician's rose. Packing peanuts. Good morning from blustery. Catherine says, good morning from blustery Missouri. Great to see you. Perfect autumn day. And Diane, your rose won't be done in time. So keep working on it. Yes, that sounds great. And it was just the Magician's Rose that you were working on. I'll check that because there is another Magician's Rose. So, however far you get, I have a completed one, but I would love to put the one that you're working on, also into the chapter. So, moving it to January, hopefully that gives a bit more time because I feel I'm going to do three that I wasn't planning on doing. Um, sorry, something quite important, but we're going to have to wait. I'm doing at least three that I wasn't planning on doing, and I might not have more time for that. So I'm just going to say I'm live. Can't talk. Sorry. Um, there's so many things going on right now. It's crazy. Um, we'll figure it all out, right? We'll figure it all out, and it'll all be great in the end. Vima's Crochet. Hello, great to see you and welcome. This might be interesting for you today if you are a crocheter because so we were talking, this is backstory. We were talking on Friday during our evening show. That was our cocktail night show, 7 to 9 on Friday. Danielle sent us some, and I think was this Missouri? Danielle's in Missouri, right? From a fiber art show that happened locally to them. The, there were a few pieces that came out that we did the old like, how was that made? What is that? It didn't look like, it did look like knitting, but it didn't look like knitting. It didn't look like rug hooking. It didn't look like embroidery. We knew what it didn't look like, but it was very hard to tell. Minnesota, thanks, Danny. I know it was one of the MIs, but what did it look like, right? And we kind of kicked this around for a while. And let me just show you the slides again so we can get back in. We have a solution because one of the buddies who was live. No, let me get this right because I always appreciate when you all send me stuff. Right after the show on Friday, let me go back to Friday. Friday would have been what, like the 14th? The 14th. Yep, let me see. I got great intel. Oh boy, do I get a lot of messages. I'm telling you. I get great intel. Valerie. I think it was Valerie. Valerie Tillman sent me some pictures of Tunisian crochet. And it definitely looks like that. But so let me show you it again so you'll know what the two images. And Danny, thank you for sending me close-ups and stuff too. I want to look at all of the rest of them, but I want to focus on this one technique today because this was so interesting, I think, for us to think about as fiber artists, as people who do sort of, we say rugs, but we really do tapestries, don't we? But we are not on a loom. So depending on the tool you're holding in your hand, you really do have lots of options with rug hooking. There's a lot of things that we can do to create effects, right? And you know, some people are certified to learn all these great things. Um, oh, Judy says, I think I was wrong. Judy, I think you wrote to me that night too. Someone posted on a Facebook page a technique called areolas. Areolas. That sounds like a bad word somehow. And okay, let me look that up while we're here. Let's see. Um, oh, good morning, Janet. Great to see you. And Diane says, you also said the Canterbury rose. I put that on hold to finish M rose. Want to do C rose for much later. Okay, so anything that is going to go in the rose book, I'm going to have to wrap it up in January just because um, I've already postponed it a couple of times. And I do, and you know, it's not a bad idea if the rose stuff comes out. I'm going to Google that word in the spring. That makes a lot of sense because I was really hoping to have a book party for the roses in the spring as well and a hook in. So all of that I think would work really better. Now let me look up this word. This is a new word for me. So I'm learning stuff today. Arraiollos. That's a toughie. It's a town in Portugal. So let me see. Stitch. Stitch. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Son of a bee. That really does look like it. Um, hold on one second. Let me. You know, I still think it's Tunisian. Although this is beautiful. Let me show you this if I can here. So this is that Arraiollos stitch. And you see on the bottom how it's done. Sorry for the wobbly hand. And it looks more like a knot. It doesn't look as much like a V as it does a knot to me. It looks more like a braid. Look up and see the finished ones. To me, it looks more like a braid. I love that we can see how it's done, and it's being stitched into linen. And I've got some bleached linen right here. Very similar, and it's very good to know the word for that stitch. Maybe. This is one of the images that Danny sent, and this is the one that really got us fired up. Because this one showed, this is a bit of a crop of this piece. Let me unlock it. This one, oops, sorry, not make it invisible, just unlock it. This one shows one piece with the stitch done in different materials, right? As soon as, I don't think you can see my cursor in this format, but as soon as we get to the dark blue below the mountain, like the shape of the mountain, it's a different material, so it looks different. Then you go under that, and there's that lighter cornflower blue, and I think it still is the same stitch, and I think it's stitched higher and looser, but it's a different material yet again, and it gives a different effect. And then down below, there's a little break. Down below that, the piece of blue that's only on the far right, that smaller piece, that seems to be done in a thinner yarn yet, and even tighter onto the fabric, like pulled tighter. And then, whoa, you know, total departure. This very dark tier, again, seems to be the same stitch, but again, a different material. And so it performs differently. It looks differently. One more time at the bottom of it, variegated, right? Looks very, very colorful and complicated, but it seems to be the same stitch again. Holy mackerel, right? And Diane says, I thought this was tambour work because it works the same as hooking and looks like chain knitting. So, and Vima says, beautiful work. It is such pretty work. It really is. In rug hooking, we call this a chain stitch. And that's where I'm going to focus today. Oh, damn it, I forgot my needle. I could always go and get it later. I brought a whole bunch of things to play with, but I forgot the needle. I'll go grab the needle at a certain point, and I'll give you an interlude watching Buttons the dog sleep. I know where the needles are. They're just in the studio room. So I'm curious to see, I'm rolling up my sleeves literally here. I'm curious to see how many materials. That piece was a great example of using many different fibers to do the same stitch, and it gave very different effects. I mean, it baffled us for what, an hour? So I feel like there's a lot of room for play and experimentation with this one stitch. The only way I see, and I haven't practiced without you, right? I haven't cheated on you. I haven't practiced anything without you. I've just been waiting. The only way that I can logically see how it can be done with our tool, which is a rug hook, is to do the chain stitch. I don't see any other way. Valerie says, Ariel's tapestry from Brazil. Yes, a family shares on Facebook. JP Tapete, Tapetes. Okay, so that's a new word for me. I know tapis from the French, but I think we're crossing over. That might be Portuguese, right? Okay, let me just take a picture of that so I can study that later. Oh, it's me. I'm taking a picture of myself. Well, we don't need that. And let me just take some so I can go down the rabbit hole with that later. I'd like to see some other examples. So I'm going to push my thing back here, and I've got a hell of a thing going on here with this setup, doing something. Oh, and the thing got unplugged. Of course it did. The computer came on. I'm going to plug you back in just in case. And let me put something heavy on there. Ho, 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 we might be in business. So just to get set up, maybe you're set up too. You're a little bit further away now. I'm gonna keep an eye on the comments here. I want to try doing this stitch. I want to try doing it with a few different fibers, not just yarn and wool. And I want to think about one of the things that we talked about that for me was a very interesting angle, because I am always forever interested in the crossover, that intersection where all the crafts meet each other, right? We're all kind of walking through the deep, dark woods, and we're all doing our own craft. We're doing hooking. Vima's doing crochet. Someone else is doing knitting. Someone else is doing needlepoint. Someone else is doing crewel work. This one is doing bargello. This one is doing cross stitch, right? We're all doing very similar things. Locker hooking, latch hooking. What tool are you holding? The only thing that separates us is what tool we're holding. where is the place in the deep dark woods where we all meet and we can look at the same picture and say, I can do that and I can make it look that way with my tool? Because it has to exist. It has to exist. There are so many tools out there. It's just we tend to not do as many sort of crossovers um, as we might. And there's no reason to experiment with different tools if you're perfectly happy doing what you're doing. But if you think the only reason I haven't experimenting with different looks and different effects on the surface of my rug hooking piece is because I just don't know what to buy. I just don't know what to use it with, and I just don't know how to do it. Let's see if we can deal with a little bit of that right now together, because I think we're going to be able to create some stitches on. I've just got my small frame out, and I've got this is bleached primitive wool, so which is going out of stock, but which I love because I feel like you can see really clearly what the stitches are doing and what my hands are doing against the white rather than the brown. So Sharon says, I'm at work, but listening and watching later. Fantastic. I mean, we might have no success at all, but we might have some great success. I'm going to pull you a little bit closer. Let me get set up here because I'm going to be here for a while. Let's see if I can sort of, hold on. Tricky. It's tricky. Oh boy. You know, I got my sweatpants on today, and that's the computer. Here we go. I can come a little bit closer, but you know who's sleeping on my lap right now. We'll stay here for a minute, and then I'll come a little bit closer to you. Let me make this a bit more even. I haven't pulled quite even onto my frame here. I'm really interested in the conversation from Friday where I initially thought that piece that Danny sent, not the one that was floral, not the one that was the mountains, I initially thought it was cross stitch. And the reason I thought it was cross stitch was because of the way that the stitches laid against each other. And they were very flat, as you saw. They were very flat. Let me come back here. Very flat to the backing fiber. Very even, very regular. And the way that the color drags reminded me of cross stitch. Certainly needlepoint, right? Certainly needlepoint. But specifically cross stitch. So that was interesting to me because I thought of all the needlepoint patterns. You know, when I was growing up, my grandmother was a huge. Sorry, I'm still fussing here. Hold on one second. Let me come back to you here and let me get myself set up better. I'm not happy with the way I'm set up at all. The plug's got to reach the thing. I've got to reach you. I've got to see the comments, and the camera has to be low. Hold on one second. When I was growing up, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and her big jam was the work basket. Yes, I'm so close now. Remember the work basket? I'm sitting on buttons. Pause. There he goes. Get them out of there, buttons. She loved the work basket. And when I was little, the only thing I knew how to do was crochet because I crocheted with her. And she didn't do cross stitch, but there were always cross stitch patterns in the work basket. And I always thought, ooh, magical. Like, what does it mean? It's like something written in code, right? What is this? You know, and I always thought, oh, I wonder how, like, you could use that for something else. Like, I used to say to her, can you look at that picture of the cross stitch and do it in crochet? She was a very basic crocheter. It was booties and straight scarves all the way. And Afghans, baby Afghans. That was it. No granny squares or anything like that. Just straight lines. And you know, she did it for fun. She did it to relax. And she had a hard life and a busy life. And you know, she wasn't doing it to challenge herself. She was doing it to give stuff to the church for the bazaar. So I never got the answer to that. And when I saw this piece, I really thought, if you, for example, had an old work basket, right? This is a very specific example, and there was an old pattern in there that was special to you for the same reason it would be special to me, like it's one of my grandmother's old work baskets, kind of a thing, or maybe something that was lost, right? Something another family member ended up having and getting or whatever, and it's lost, and you would like the same thing as some kind of a memory, a memento. How could we look at the information on something like a gridded or graph pattern? Because cross stitch occurs, like the information for it occurs on kind of a grid, and you look and you see whether it's counted or not, right? You see the picture, and there's little crosses, or it's colored, right? Very digital looking, and you know where you're supposed to put the color. And if it's counted cross stitch, you have to count it yourself, right? So you need like, you need a incredible pair of glasses, right? But I think we can also do this in a rug hooking format. Um, not with so much crazy counting, but I'm wondering if we can get that same kind of bleed that we saw in Danny's photo using rug hooking. And I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't. Vima says, that's so wonderful your granny was. She was so cute. She was always so proud of her pieces. She always used the red heart yarn. It was nothing fancy, you know, it was just stuff for the church. Valerie says the stitch looks like the cross stitch with yarn, needlepoint. That's exactly what it looks like. That's exactly what it looks like. So it looks to me like they're using the same kind of linen, and I'm coming back down here, the same kind of linen that we use, right? So this is rug hooking linen. Now, if I want to do something with a needle later, can I do it into this linen? Well, of course I can do it into this linen. It's just fabric, right? When you're using a needle, you can basically use a needle in anything, right? If I tried hard enough, I always lifted up this book and the plug would have come out. I have a hardcover book right next to me. If I had the right needle, like a leather needle or something, I could go right through the cover of the book, right? A needle will go through anything, but that is not the same as rug hooking. Rug hooking is much more fiddly. We need a specific, and I've got my pencil hook, my Irish hook, so hopefully this works for us okay. If not, I'll spring up and get another hook. We are more limited than a needle woman or man, right? We are more limited because of what we need our tool to do to really perform. We need that sharp tip, right? Not too sharp, but pretty dang sharp to be able to go into the material again and again, make a hole and pull something up. We also need a very deep crook so that we can pull something up, right? If you don't have a deep crook, you're not going to be able to latch onto something like this and pull it through the backing, right? So what we're using is much more specific. I could do anything needlepoint that you can think of onto this backing, but if I were to change my backing, I would probably lose the ability to do something with this hook, right? So it's a one-way street. Rita says, my special piece is a jack jump over the candlestick. Oh, my Oma wrought on a piece of cotton for me to embroider. She put a needle in my hand before I ever used a pencil. Oh, that is so cute. Jack jumping over a candlestick. That is too cute. We say Oma in our family too. I have these strips, right? These are just brown strips. These are probably recycled clothing. They look like they want to shred a little bit. It is recycled clothing because look, there's a serger seam here. So this is recycled. So I have a lot of recycled stuff that I use myself. I love using it. Sometimes it doesn't hook perfectly, but it's great for me. Haven't used this camel color yet, and God knows there's no shortage of camel colored stuff in this world, right? So before I almost started doing the stitch, before I start stitching, right, the suspense is building. No, it's not. I will start stitching. I want to make a design on here. So here's my Sharpie. Let's do a design on here because if I do want to figure out whether I can kind of fill in the background like the Tunisian stitch or what do I want to say, like crewel work, right? Like any continued stitch, that gives it a very strong directional pull. I want to have a picture. Right? I can show you as a sampler and we'll do that too. But let's come up with a picture. So first I'm just going to do something small here. And I'm going to follow my lines, draw directly on here. So I'm looking at my grid. Want things to go straight. And if you have your stuff out, just try to follow the line roughly, right? Just try to follow the grain and just do a square. Let's get started. And you know what I was thinking about when I woke up in the middle of the night 10 times as usual? I was thinking about what design to do. And guess what? I never came up with the right idea. I was thinking, should I do like a Christmas tree or like maybe a little evergreen? Maybe I'll do a little evergreen. You know, maybe I'll do that. Let's do that. With, you know, winter coming and everything else. You do whatever you want. I'll do it in reverse. So you can see it here too. And it's not going to be perfect because I'm not perfect. But it's going to be a tree. So let's do this, right? Just coming into winter, good enough. And we'll see how many ways we want to experiment with this. It might be that I want to do some kind of a border that's like this kind of a thickness. let's see what we got. This is not going to come out as a finished piece because I just grabbed a bunch of rag bag stuff to see how far we could get and how successful we could be. So let's start with just a wool strip. This is going to work with a wool strip. Why don't we start with, I'm going to move over just to hair here to the edge. I want to do the border with the tan just to see how strong of a directional pull I can get and to see what kind of height it gives me with a number 7. This looks like a number 7 cut. Those things are going to matter in the end. Now, as we were saying on Friday's show, I don't want to leave my tail up with this technique because, come a little bit closer. I'm afraid that if I leave my tail up, it's going to show and it's going to be distracting. So let me give you an example. Here's the tail. I'm going to come into the next hole and do a loop, and then I'm going to start the technique, and I'm going to start again. I'm going to restart, right? I'm going to restart and I'm going to walk you through it. But I'm just making the point that if I do this, you can see that the tail is very, I'm going to try to pull you even closer. Hang on 1 second. Try to pull you over me a little bit. You're going to get a little bit of the computer screen, but yeah, it's hard. I'm sitting in the bright window and it's still really hard. But you can see, right, that this is very noticeable, right? Who wants to deal with that? How am I going to hide that? Well, I'm not going to be able to hide that because with this craft, you can see that the first 2 stitches, they're pretty flat down. I'll hold it up to the camera when I get some traction going. And that's off on its own, right? That's like Nani No Friends over here, off on the, you can't leave a tail with this technique. You're going to have to go in, pull up, and my finger is very carefully underneath holding the tail so it doesn't go all the way up. You're going to have to leave the tail down there and leave like an inch, right, so that it doesn't get screwed up and pulled through by accident. So I'm still here in the loop. My tail is underneath. I'm going to go a little bit more of a jump than I would do with traditional rug hooking because I want it to look like a chain. And so I'm going to jump a couple of holes each time. Give me a minute to get a little bit of traction here. And what I'm doing is I've got the loop on my hook. I'm choosing where I land, right? And you choose for yourself too. If you're working with wool strips number 7, you want it to look pronounced, your stitch, then you have to jump a little ways out. It can't be, the loops can't be on top of each other. Also, you need a big enough loop as you pull through the next link, right? It can't be too tight or you're not going to be able to get that through without a struggle. So a little bit of a struggle here. Let me try again. And what could be going wrong? Anything could be going wrong. It could be stuck on my hook or it could be stuck on the fabric. Let me do a couple more and then I'm going to hold it up and show you. This is something we've done before. This is rug hooking chain stitch. So this is one of those things that, you know, when you get certified, you learn how to do this. This is great for outlining. This is great for all those Pearl and Jane McGowan. Sorry. See, I pulled my loop too tight and it was hard to get the next one through it. What I'm doing, again, just in case you're like, whoa, I haven't seen this yet. Instead of starting in the next hole, right into the backing fabric, I am going through my loop first and then going down to pick up the next loop, right? So the loop never leaves my hook. Do you see what I mean? Never leaves my hook. I never come over here and just put down, right? I stay here. And I think I got a couple of links a little bit too close together because it was hard to pull the next loop up through it. If I give myself a good large loop, which I'm going to do here, it's a bit easier. It is easy. I probably shouldn't have this stupid Irish hook because it's so curled at the tip that you know, it plays me sometimes. So let me do a couple more. I'm coming to the end of my tail too. So I think what's going to stop me is my tail. Now, the problem is when you stop. Let me show you what I got so far. Okay. not super sunny day, but hopefully you can see what this chain looks like. And you can see there's some straggly moments, right? I see some stragglers here and here. And that's all stuff that I can deal with later, right? I see another one here. That's all stuff I can deal with later. But you see it made this nice chain stitch. Now, that's, to me, that's what this thing looks like that we've been studying. To me, this is as close as we can get as rug hookers to Tunisian crochet. Now, when I show it to you from the side, is it super flat? It's not super flat. Super flat. It's not super flat, but it's not high either. That doesn't help, does it? Let's talk about two things. What do I do with this loop that's left? That's a tricky one, right? That's a tricky one. So let me see what I can do with this. I could either get another strip and continue, right? Just go through here and continue. Or I could, I'm trying to think of what would make the most sense. If I was leaving it there, I think I would just tuck it under like that, just like the first one is tucked under, right? It just disappears down below. I think that's the tidiest way if you do not plan to continue it. That's probably the tidiest way. Because again, you do not want a tail sticking up. Now, look at all these beautiful holes that I have in here, right? All of these beautiful holes. Like I could come up with a needle right through the backing fabric and stitch a bead or something into each of those. Imagine how pretty that would be if I stitched a bead into each of these little hollows, right, where it makes its little V shape. Now, back to the question of how high is that technique coming up? Well, let's find out. I'm going to come right next to it, and I'm going to rug hook, and I wouldn't say I'm a high or low hooker. I'd say I'm kind of medium, possibly even on the low side. This would be my normal, and I'll show you side by side. This would be the normal sort of rhythm and height of my hooking. Can I control myself? Well, hardly ever. But can I control whether my loops come up high or low? I can. I mean, it's another thing that you need to think about, right? That you need to focus your brain on, so you can't shut your mind off completely. But I could decide to myself, this is my sort of standard hooking. You can see it's a little bit higher than the chain stitch in rug hooking, right? This is, my regular hoops are a little bit higher. Could they be as low as that? You would have to experiment. It depends on your material. It depends on exactly how high your rug hooked loops are versus your chain stitched hoops. It would depend on both of those things. But it is likely, using a wool strip, if you are combining traditional rug hooking with loops and doing this special thing, which is a special stitch, the chain stitch with a rug hook, you can expect to have a height difference, right? So that's something to think about. Since we're here to experiment, let's think about sticking with the rug hooking example. I'm going to try to do the same stitch. I'll make a little pause here so we don't get confused. I'm going to try to do the same stitch higher. Let's see if that's possible. It probably is just going to take some sort of concentration. I'm just going to see if I can leave each link a little bit higher up on the surface. For example, if I was doing something in a rug hooking piece and I wanted if it was important for me to have both my chain links, see, it doesn't want to come up that high without making a fuss, and my hooked loops to be the same height. And rather than trying to control my rug hooking, if I was trying to control my chain, it is harder. I got to say, it's probably something you get used to. It is harder to leave it high. You see how it wants to, I want you to follow me a little bit better. You see how it wants to be pulled down, right? Because I haven't pulled the loop down because I want that height. It's harder to get the definition of the other one coming through. This is something that could easily take practice and could be very easy to do, I'm sure. So I'm getting in the groove of it now. Let me see this through. Because it's, if you're doing outlining, you're doing something in your rug hooked border, it's nice to have this as an option. If you're a very technical person, it might matter to you a lot that your loops and your chain stitches are the same height. I'm going to stop at this corner in a second, and I'm going to leave my tail down. So I feel like I left these higher on the surface. And let me show you. So these first ones, a little bit lower. These, not perfect, right? I was struggling as when I got started, got a little bit better, definitely higher. These are definitely on a par with my typical loops. So it can be done that with the same size strip, you could do something that was wider and higher. It's both wider and higher because there's more fabric on the surface. It's slight, right? It's slight, but there is certainly a difference. This speaks to not this slide, but this slide, right? When you're using a different material, you're pulling it tighter, you get a completely different look. Yeah, for fiber people like us, we look at it and we know that it's the same thing, right? It's not, we're not going to be like hugely fooled or tricked, but you know, it does take some time to figure out how you're getting that kind of variety. And we can get that kind of variety with rug hooking too. We were able to make the straight up chain stitch. Try to bring it in again. The straight up chain stitch, and then a much looser version of the chain stitch. Now, what's different than with traditional rug hooking, just pulling up loops, is when I make a mistake like that, it's harder to fix it. Like one of the edges here, it just twisted too tight, right? And this whole area twisted a little bit too tight. It's a bit hollow on this side. That's harder to fix than with my plain loops. Obviously, right? Because there's no extra material. If I pull it up, it's going to take from the next chain. So that's something to think about too. One of the things I'm presenting you with right now is if you want to do this effect, yes, it goes very well with loops. It's completely different, isn't it? I'm still using my rug hook. I haven't gone to another tool. Still using my rug hook, but it's completely different. It gives you a completely different look, and I think it's a nice complement to rug hooking. So let's move on to a different thought. I'm going to turn this a little bit this way. I've got a different material. Now I've got really bulky yarn, right? So I'm going to try doing the same stitch with my really bulky yarn. Let me come over here. Probably didn't need to draw the tree because I could see this really turning into a sampler and not needing that tree at all. But, you know, I will end up pulling it all out later because this isn't going to become a thing of beauty, right, that we're going to cry ourselves to sleep about if I don't keep it. It's just we're just playing. So I'm doing the same thing with the yarn. I'm pulling up a tail. I want to leave plenty of room under there, right? Be careful not to pull it out later. I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to stay with the hoop, go into the next, for me, logical hole. And what do you think, and you can see it right away, what do you think is going to happen with this fiber, this bulky yarn, versus the number 7 cut strip? I'll check the thread in a minute. I'm just going to get some traction. And I'm being very careful because I want to space it pretty evenly. Now, if I was more of an embroiderer, right, I used to be a big needlepoint person, not for years, not since I stopped being able to see anything. But I was much more careful then. With my needle in my hand, I was much more careful. With my hook, I've become an animal. I just, you know, just stab all over the place and pull stuff up and rip it out if I don't like it. Very, very different crafts. So it takes a minute for me with this to get back in the mindset of pay attention, right? Pay attention. Look at what you're doing and pay attention, because I'm not really in that mindset typically. That's what I love about rug hooking. But again, this is a novelty. Okay. And one of the things with yarn that's going to be different with this technique in particular is, you know, it's got a lot of ply. Like this is, I don't know how many ply this is, but this is a really bulky yarn. There's lots of individual little yarns in there, and now they're playing me, right? It's getting caught on itself, on its own butt, and making it hard to pull it through. So I would say right off the bat, let's talk about the difference between rug hooking and yarn. The yarn is, for me so far, and again, I'm not used to it, but it's a bit more fiddly because because it's many ply, because it's thick, it's easy to snag it, to get it caught with my rug hook. probably would work differently with a different rug hook, a different yarn. It could all be different. But first blush, right out of the gate, it's a little bit trickier, right? Because it wants to fray. I keep catching the wrong damn part of the yarn, all that fun stuff, right? So let me just meet this corner. So visually, I think what I would really want to do, I am still thinking about making this end, right? I think what I would really want to do, ideally, let me just experiment with this too, is cut the last loop. And if I really want to hide it, I'll show you a close-up of this, and then come up and pull it under. I think that would be even better than just leaving the tail under. It'd be more secure too. Okay, hold on. Struggle is real. Yeah, this is definitely the wrong hook to play with on this day. Well, it's very hard to come up under a loop, right? Because I'm not used to doing that as a hooker either. And I just catch the tail and drag the tail under. I think that's even better. So can you see what I did? Wait a minute. Here. I made it a little bit tight because I didn't cut much of a tail, but that's a nice way to resolve it right here. Just one little stitch, tail under, and you could fool with it, right, to make it tidy. Oh, hey, Marilyn, good to see you. So Judy says, Judy is way better at figuring this stuff out. Judy says, I think I would bring the end up through the last hoop and pull it through. Yes. Yep. I was behind you, Judy. Your brain was working better than mine. Yeah, no, I think that is way better. So what's different about this thick yarn? Well, you know, when I pan back and we look at it like this, there's not a huge difference. This was a little bit harder to work with because of the ply. It's a little bit more tidy than this, right? This just looks different. This is the exact same technique. Besides it being trickier, I gotta say, the thick yarn is a quite similar height to hooking with a wool strip, but just doing it a little more loosely. This one is tighter down here, but the second time we did a little more loosely. That's on a par with the thick wool, and it is a little bit tidier. That's something to think about. With that ply yarn, can I make it any less tall, my stitching? Of course not, right? It's right up against the backing fabric. There's nothing else I can do. This is the deal. This is what you get when you hook with that particular yarn. Interesting. Sharon, it does make a really nice border. So, okay, so more information was had. I've got this yarn too. This is like a thinner. I don't know that we need to do this right now. But you know what? I just had an idea. What if, this is a thinner yarn, so this is a 3-ply. This is going to be 3-ply Briggs & Little. I wonder if it's possible to do this as a double. It might not be. It might be very, very complicated, but I'm curious. Let me see if I could possibly. I'm going to do the same thing, but with a double strand. Now, let's see. I'm going to do it in the Christmas tree here. Pulling up here. Oh, sorry. I forgot. I got to stay in there, right? Yeah, this could be an absolute nightmare, but let's see. Because a lot of you probably are knitters, and you probably have a lot of sock yarn and worsted weight, and you know, thinner stuff than bulky. And you might be thinking, well, I want to do this, but I want it, you know, I want it to look like an embroidery. I want it to be really kind of high pile on the surface. Then you might want to think about doubling up, right, rather than looking for more stuff to buy. Yeah, it totally works. It works fine. It's just you got to be careful. It actually works easier than I thought. It makes a beautiful double braid. There's no problem. I'm pulling up 2 right now. Wish my light was better. I wonder if I should move to the closer to the window. Would take a minute because I'd have to upset everything. Let's see. I'll show it to you in a second. This is actually absolutely fine. I thought having 2 loops at the same time on my hook was going to be a huge wind-up, but it's only a little wind-up. And again, once you get used to it, once you get used to how high to pull and how far to travel to the next hole, it actually is quite easy. So let me show you. Can you see blue loop there? wonder if I should get, are you having a hard time seeing me? I wonder if I should go get my, my neck is stiff. I'm moving like an ancient person. Should I get my light to plug in? Would that help? It's always hard for me to tell on my monitor because I know it's not true to anything. I'm going to keep going for a second. I'll keep an eye on the, I'm going to keep going for a second because this is very, very easy. The double is the easiest time I've had so far. Of course, it depends on the yarn too. Now you see I'm pulling up quite high. This is like 1/2 inch that I'm going before I come through because the higher I pull, right? So this is top tip already. The higher I pull, even if it's very loose on my hook, it gives me more room to pull through. Now that was a fail, so hang on. It gives me more room in the loop to pull through the next 2 loops. So if I keep it high, let's exaggerate it. If I keep it really high, right? That's really Toulouse-Lautrec right there. And I come into the next loop and I pull the next ones through. I can pull from underneath to get the first ones to go down. And I can still keep the working loops high. Do you see what I mean? If I keep those really loose, I'm guaranteed I'm going to be able to pull through them. And then my hand underneath is pulling on those 2 threads and it's tightening up the loop that I just pulled, right? That it's a lot of loop talk, I know. But it's actually really easy to do that. So you could really exaggerate what you're doing by keeping your loops really loose and you're still going to be able to underneath make them tidy again, which is better than struggling to get it through, right? Like pulling your watermelon through your nostril. That's one of my classic live show analogies, which isn't the best, but it definitely gets the point across, I think. So that worked great. Now let me do that technique again where it didn't work great that last time, but as a rule, it is going to work great to keep your loops higher rather than lower because you can still fool with them underneath. So what did we say, Judy, that we're going to do? We're going to pull it up and I don't want to pull it back down. Now I'm confused about what we did. See, it seemed so logical the last time. Hold on. Let me think. My brain is working now. So Judy says, I think it would be better if you pull up the last loop, then pull it through to the back. Yes. How the hell did I do it? Wait a minute. How did I do it? Totally blanking out. Let's say I did. This is just making another loop though, isn't it? So I don't want to make another loop. Okay. You all are probably shouting at the screen right now because I just did it. And now I can't remember how I did it. What if I'm going to cut underneath. I know I did that. Let me cut underneath and let's see if we can do pull through here. Now it's really tough. Right? It's really tough. It knows I'm struggling. It knows I'm vulnerable. And it's going to really play me. So let's pull through here. Come on, you little stinker. It's good that I said stinker, right? Oh, you know what it's doing? It's caught the tail of this guy. That's what it's doing. So I've got it through. No, I don't. Sorry, Judy, I made a pig's breakfast out of it. Your idea is perfect. My skill is lacking. Pull it through here and God, I don't remember at all what I did. I totally don't remember what I did. What if I do that and then that's what I did? Damn it. What is wrong with me? And then I pulled it through this way, right? The monster comes out of the ground. Yep. Holy mackerel. End like a chain stitch crochet. Thank you. All right. So sorry about that. So so that worked great too, which makes me feel like, let me just take a sip of my drink, which makes me feel like that there's some possibilities with the yarn. I honestly thought the yarn was going to be very fast, which it is. It's faster than the wool strips, but I didn't think it was going to have a lot of possibilities. I like the idea because if you can put 2 strands, you could put 2 different strands, right? So think about that one. if you can put two strands and really have no problem because you're keeping your loops high when you go through them, you could do, for example, one, wool and one mohair or a couple mohairs, and that would be in one chain. Can you imagine how pretty that would look? Mm. At the end of the day, oh gosh, we're already at almost 11. All right, I'm going to quickly do a couple more things. I didn't realize we were so late. It takes time to do demonstrations, doesn't it? I feel like there's a lot of possibilities. Let's keep going. So I'm going to go with, let's try this one. Let's try this one. This is another yarn, but this is already a 2-ply with some kind of Angelina in it. I'm going to do it fast just to give you the effect, and I'm going to do it single. So this is what it looks like beforehand. Now it's going to create a pattern. And the worry is with this technique that there already is a pattern. Why don't we do something that I've really been wanting to figure out? And that is figure out if I do this as a cross stitch fill, is it going to make a pattern? So why don't I just do, for example, this little corner here, and let's pretend that this is my pattern. I'm going to do this stitch in this square and stay very geometric. Oh, wait a minute, I already screwed it up. Stay very geometric and see if the end result is going to be that it does look like that cross stitch. This was probably the wrong yarn to choose to do this particular experiment because it's patterned. But let's see. So I'm going to come. So what am I doing different than I did before? What I'm doing different is, ooh, I've come to a crossroads here. Is I have a direction in mind, and I have a fill shape in mind. I'm filling in that square. I'm not just going in a straight line. So this is different. Next thought, if I do this and come in this direction, is that going to be a problem? It is going to be a problem because when I go in this direction, I don't know if you can see it, but it leaves a gap in the side, right? It leaves a gap because I'm pulling over and it comes with me. You see that little bit of white? Now, maybe if you're, you're probably normal and that's not going to be a big thing for you. It's going to be a big thing for me. So already I'm thinking to myself, if I'm doing a fill, I might be getting the answer I am seeking, like right out of the gate. If I'm doing a fill, I'm not going to be able to make turns like rug hooking because it pulls too far over and then you're seeing a gap. So that's a problem. It's not going to work directionally like that. I am going like a typewriter straight down, and that's all I can do with this stitch, at least with something this bulky. So let me follow this through. I'm still going to follow this through. So let me do the same thing where what am I doing? I'm cutting it underneath. Yeah, I'm cutting it underneath. So I very quickly got my answer on that, didn't I? I was thinking I could kind of just go up and down the rows in a directional manner. And I did that a different way, again, I know, and get this knitted result, and it ain't going to work that way. It does not want to turn a 45-degree corner. That's for sure. Let me just hide this tail. Sorry. Definitely running over as I fool around here. Just talking about how behind I am with everything, and then I do something like this that is going to take extra time because I'm not going to be able to stop now until I get all the answers that I'm looking for. Get those tails down. Okay. That's not going to work. So I still want to see this through. I'll show you this close up in just a minute. I'm coming back in, and I'm starting at the top again. And if you're doing anything with me, if you're doing the chain stitch with me, you're going to need to decide if you're doing a fill and you want this to look like crochet, you're going to have to decide how close you want that row to be to the row before it, right? This is the row before it. This is my new row. It's going to depend on what your material is. It's going to depend, on how thick and how close you see this as being, right? Like if you want it super tight with no gaps. Okay, sorry, I'm just slackening it up down below. So far I've learned when I'm doing a fill that I can create this crocheted Tunisian crochet look, but I'm not going to be able to make corners. I'm not going to be able to make right angles. And that is a huge consideration because I'm turning into a knitting machine, right? It does what it does. That row is going to end. I cannot turn it with me. It is going to end. Why is it so dark when it is so bright in here? So I have got 2 parallel rows here. You see? Huh. All right. Well, that's okay. I'm just wondering, I'm going to hold on that thought. I'm going to hold on that thought. I can fill this square. I'm just going to have to keep going top to bottom. Now, if I was doing something really crazy and I wanted to turn my piece all the way around and go bottom to top, right, this one going this way, this one going that way, I could do that. But it's not going to make tidy edges if I keep turning it like a snake. It's not going to make tidy edges. If you pull the loop higher, then make a 45-degree turn, then it won't pull the finished row. If I pull the loop higher, okay, let's see. Hold on. This is a really tough one to be experimenting with. You know what? I'm going to take that out. Let me experiment with a different one. This makes a beautiful pattern, by the way, but it's not good for doing what I'm trying to do. So just another nice, thick, lush pattern. Let's see. I was going to switch to a totally different material like velvet or cut up a silk tie, but I don't think I will do that right now because of time and because I really want to see what the answer is. I'm going to go back to the yellow because I think it was fast and it was easy to use, and I'm going to try to get you close to me again. Let me push this over here. Whoa! Yeah, see how much fun I have? I really, really have fun when I'm doing live stuff like this. This is why I hardly ever do it because it's such a lot of fun. Okay, there we go. Sorry, buttons. And the plug fell out of the computer. All good. Okay, so let's do this again. Sorry, babe, you're good. Just move your leg. I don't want to break your leg with my, you know. Okay, so, and I would like to see more sun too. So let's see. There we go. That's a little bit better. So, okay, so let's try this. I'm curious. I'm going to try to figure out, let me start fresh over here. I'm going to try to figure out from Diane, let me try to do that. Have to cut, and next row down will be reverse change row. Okay, so I would still have to cut. Let's figure this out. Hold on, I'm going to leave a big, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do another section, right? Just to figure out how this row thing works, because if I'm thinking about this in relation to a cross stitch, it works in rows, right? It works in rows. And the question becomes, is it two things? Is it possible to do continuous rows using your rug hook, right, to get this effect, to get this chain effect, cross stitch effect? Is it possible? That's question number one. Question number two, is it worth it, right? These are both things that are worth considering. Feel like I did a really big stitch right there, but hold on. Okay. No cut, just make the large loop. Okay. Probably, my brain doesn't get that. So just make a large loop. So if I have a large loop, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. If I have a large loop, then it won't pull so much because there's more give. Let's give it a shot. I'm coming one row over here. Okay, let's see. So you saw what I just did there, and you saw how it made a dog leg, which is not a problem, but it does mean I have to turn to keep going. So let's keep going. And the thing is, hold on, let me get some traction. So Diane is right. It gave coverage. It gave coverage, but it gave something else too. That is not the end of the world. Hold on. Because I've turned, now my yarn is stuck on my frame. You know what I mean? And this speaks to question number two, is it worth it? Because if you are working off a skein and you're turning your frame upside down and right side up, that becomes an is it worth it thing, because it's just like stuck, you know. So I'm going to do the same jazz here where I pull up a large loop, and now I'm stuck two ways. So this could be, okay, that could be something that is not for you. Or it might be perfectly fine. I'm going to keep going with this, but let's look what we got so far. So this is my loop right here. What we've got so far is I have chained up. That looks great. I made that turn with an extra large loop. What did that accomplish? It meant that it didn't pull, and this side didn't get pulled over with it. What it does mean is that there is a sideways stitch, right? You see the sideways stitch because I didn't cut off, and that is visible. So it does create the up and down, but it's not just directionally like on this piece here. Again, the piece I'm obsessed about, there aren't those turns. You see what I mean? It's just straight up, straight down. Let me see, hold on, let me see what Karen said. I want to have another thing to say about this. Karen says, could you make an extra chain in the air when you get to the end of the row? Then go back up the next row as before. Interesting. Interesting. If I leave the last chain in the air, here it is, and then, this is why I'm a learner by watching videos. I'm not a learner by reading. And you're getting a sense of that, aren't you? I'm like a disaster. Karen says, could you leave the stitch in the air when you get to the end of the row and then go back up the next row as before? Huh. So Karen, if I have the loop in the air and I do this, that's what I did before. Do you mean start another loop somehow? I'm thinking this through at the same time. Because if I want that to end there, it's not secure. So that's the thing, right? That's the thing, is that it's not secure. Because if it were secure, that would be a no-brainer. Of course, I could secure it. I could secure it. We could secure it the way we did before. I'm not going to cut it, don't worry, because I know that we are... I can't do this, can I? I can do that, and underneath what I'm doing is I've got the loop. It's too tight against the surface to do it. I could pull thread through the loop like locker hooking and anchor it that way. I'm not going to do that because I think that's not what we're talking about. But you could do that as well, right? That is absolutely possible. Okay, let me come back to the thread. The reverse chain stitch directions show in the example art piece. The directions, I don't think it, the directions show, not directions on how to, but the direction of how it goes. Okay, yeah, let's look at that again. Let me just, Valerie says, pull a really tight chain at the corner. Worked for you. Okay, you're doing it with me. So you just pulled a really tight chain at the corner and you anchored it. And then you just quietly, discreetly moved to the next row so that that chain that you pulled down didn't really have a relationship to the next row. Like what I did over here. Is that what you did, Valerie? That's a cool herringbone effect. You know, Judy, it is a cool herringbone effect. Yeah, Karen, I like crochet method to make turns without pulling. Okay, this is all so interesting. I'm never going to be able to stop. Okay, so we are seeing the direction in this piece, and it's all the same direction. So my guess is that with this piece, I don't think they're using a hook. I think they're using a needle. But my guess with that, my guess is that you would have the same issue with the needle, right? Or whatever you're holding in your hand, either you're dragging it to the next, row, or you're not. So for example, let me do this a little bit more. I'm going to do the original idea. Now hold on, I got myself all fluffed out over here. Let me pull through here. And if I keep a really big loop like I did the first time, I can come to the next row, pull through, and I travel with that loop. So we've talked about several different methods in a short time. Now you see how that yarn is all crappy? That's going to be a problem with yarn with this. I'm twisting it under the surface. Of course, if I was better at this and I was practiced at this, you know what I'm doing for fun? I'm at that corner, and for the last loop, I'm hooking it right up against, like too close to the one before it, like packing, rather than going to the normal row. I got way up close just to close the gap. Now let's see. Let's look at this again. We have already done this one, but I'm not done figuring it out in my head. So I did what I did before. Now hold on one second. You keep doing yours for a second. I'm going to go up a row. I feel like I need to see it a little bit better if I'm going to make a decision about, yeah, see, this is frayed a little bit because I was doodling it, and now it looks messy and it's hard to see. I'll show you a close-up of all this in a minute. All right, let me just shoot down this row. And I did keep that loop loose loops. And I'm coming down here. I don't know that I'm like equidistant as I was in the first two rows, but as I try to figure stuff out, it's going to require a lot of stupidity, right? That's just the way it is. So let me just come down here and look at it again. So this is not what was done in that piece. That person who did that stitch that we were looking at as the inspiration stitch definitely didn't have the snake, right? I've got the up, down, up. What it accomplishes, I think, catching your stitch really close to the row before, so like really encroaching on this row, and then getting back into your, really helps close that gap. I don't know if when I get here though, if I'll be able to do that again, or if it's going to start to lilt to one side. What I'm trying to avoid is that a gap here when I pull across. And certainly, like Diane said, pulling up that high loop definitely helps with that. And the directional hooking is super cool, but it does, sorry, buttons, it does show the snake, right? It shows the snake. So that's something to think about. I'm still thinking. Interesting. I mean, it doesn't have to be this way. It could be the way it was up here when we pulled it under, right? When we pulled up one last loop and then pulled it through to the other side and kind of tucked it in so that we have a complete last loop, but there's no height, there's no knot. That works. If we did that here too, right, or here. This works too if you want continuous. But it didn't do. I still don't know, because I'm not doing this as a needlecraft. I'm doing this as a rug hooking technique. I still don't know what that person was holding for sure, and I don't know anything about that technique other than she must have stopped and started at the rows, because the herringbone is not a two-sided snake like ours is. So it's a piece of yarn. I'm using a different piece of yarn. She's using a piece of yarn. I don't see how it could be anything but stops and starts. I don't see how she, I might be wrong, and I would love to know the technique. Buttons, bug off. Sorry, Buttons is climbing up my junk, and I'm trying to concentrate on getting up this thing. You can jump up, honey. You're capable of jumping up 1 foot. Okay. I'm going to come back up here, and then I'm going to figure something else out. It's just trying to figure out if it would ever be possible to connect this to this. Like, I'm just thinking if there's, I've just got the two top loops. Wonder if I could do something like, I'm going to pull this out, I'm sure, but I was wondering if I could do something like with like a double crochet. No, that's not going to work, because then it pulls them much too hard, you see. I pulled up the two top loops and I went through like it was a double crochet, but that's not going to work. I just managed to stretch that out. Interesting. Well, okay, so you see I just doodled all that up because I did that. Come on, Buttons. Come on, honey. Don't be so helpless. Come on, sweetie. Up he goes. Up he goes. Come. There he goes. Interesting. It is interesting. I'm just looking at it myself too and thinking about, Diane says, multi-direction makes the light on camera or cause faux subtle striping. It is kind of cool. It's super cool if you want that. If you don't want that, you'd have to do this and stop and start, I think, this kind of row here. Um, so pretend I had a cross stitch just to complete this um, example. Pretend this was a cross stitch rose, right? And the rose was like this. You know how cross stitch is like circles, and I was doing these circles in one specific color, and then I was doing these circles in a different color, right? And it showed me on the pattern what circles I was doing. This technique in rug hooking is possible to do this in a cross stitch style, pixelated like a cross stitch pattern is pixelated, but it would be a lot of stopping and starting. Unless, one more thing, unless, let me take one more sip of my drink. It's funny because if I had done, and I am going to do the one last thing, if I had done this, you know what, I'm just going to cut this so we can try something. You know, no, I won't cut it. I'll continue. If we had done this in a different yarn, in a thicker yarn, a thinner yarn, a wool strip, a cut up necktie, a whatever, number one, it would look completely different. And like Diane is saying, it does give a striping, right? It gives a striping feel to it. This is a fairly small block, right? So you're seeing the edges on both sides where I have done the turn, and basically it makes like a U, right? So you see just what I'm doing. It's just I'm basically crocheting into my rug hooking backing with a rug hook. You could do that on a larger scale, and these turns, the smaller your run is, right, the more obvious the turns are. If I was filling the whole background in like this, it wouldn't be so obvious. Now, one more thought. I want to, well, two more thoughts actually. Okay, the plug is out, but we have plenty of energy. I'm going to do, I have two experiments in my mind before I log off. I want to do something irregular. I don't want to do a fill, right? This is how a fill works with that stitch. And you know your option is to cut the tail and to drag it through, or to keep snaking it. And if I was snaking it, it might look like this, right? If I was doing the whole background fill snaky. That might be really cool. If that's what you want, you know, that would look cool in the tree. That would look way cooler in the tree, wouldn't it, like that? I would outline it first. Well, you know, maybe I wouldn't outline it because it would do kind of a U shape on the tree like that. That would be kind of cool, actually. I'm wondering if how this stitch looks if I'm doing something like Jacobian, like a free drawing line, and I'm not doing a fill. How far can I go with this technique? I think so that I don't have this problem with the edges. And I think the answer is going to be I'm only going to have that problem with this technique if I am doing a 45-degree angle, right? If I'm turning right back on myself. I think if I'm doing free form, now this was the easiest one to hook with it originally, right? That I wasn't delusional, right? I'm not losing my mind. I think you can make some pretty sort of acute or dramatic turns with this same technique without worrying that you're going to end up with the little U-bumps from the 45-degree angle turns. I think unless you're making that much of an extreme turn, you are going to be able to chain stitch the hell out of this thing. Now, beyond that, now hang on, beyond that, this could be a really, and look at how fast it goes. I'm sorry, compared to rug hooking. I know that's like awful to say because I'm like a huge rug hooker, but it does go. I need to turn my thing. It goes a hell of a lot faster. I mean, I'm not even really trying, and I am struggling with my material. Imagine if me and my material were in harmony here, and I had like one of these lazy Susan frames, and I was just turning as I go. Man, I would watch one Hallmark movie, and the whole background of my piece would be done. Seriously. Particularly with bulky yarn like this. Dang it, that's something to think about, isn't it? Because look at how nice it does. Now, say I really wanted to fill in, say I wanted to like cuddle up against that line, and I was going to do what I did, you know, over there with the straight lines in the yellow corner, but say I'm filling in over here because I'm doing a Van Gogh sky or something like that. And I'm just cuddling right up against this here. Yeah, I have that one U-bend, right, that you can see in the tail right here. But otherwise, you can see how easily this is going to work. Now let's pretend that I have a pattern in mind, and obviously I have the idea of doing the tree, that ship has sailed. But let's say I'm doing this. Now hang on. Let's say I'm doing something abstract, and let's say I mean to do it, right? So that's something different. So I'm doing my tail here. I'm coming right through with the tail and making sure it stays the same height when I pull it. I'm coming back under and tucking the tail. Easy peasies. Down she goes. Nice and tidy. Now let's say that I did have a vision in mind, and I take out one of my rug hooking strands, and you see how I left a little holiday here. What if I meant to do this technique, and now I'm getting in there, and I'm going to fill it in with rug hooking loops. Uh-oh. I shouldn't say that in front of Buttons because he knows he's in trouble when he hears that particular sound. But I feel that this is a very big deal because we've got two techniques here. We use the rug hook the entire time. I only use yarn, like rug hooking yarn, and it's okay, Buttons. You feel like he's not breathing, like he's holding his breath, honey. Wait, let me just touch him. There he is. Oh, that's his butt. Good, I just touched him right on the butt. But you see what I mean? I'm filling this in here like that. Now, dang it, this is happening fast, isn't it? And we've got the two techniques together there, and I haven't brought any other. I'm on vacation, right? Not really, but let's pretend it's next month and it's Teddy's birthday, and we are going to New York City as we always do, and I'm at the Warwick Hotel, and I'm in my room, and I have one tool, and it's this rug hook, which is always in my hand. And I have all my regular rug hooking stuff with me, but I'm doing stuff that looks like this because now I'm thinking about using that technique too. That's something, isn't it? I mean, that really, and if you think about it, these could be higher, could be lower, you could be adding embellishments. I'm kind of excited. Again, because sometimes what we're looking for as a rug hooker is directional hooking. And using this technique gives us incredibly pronounced directional hooking, and you can still use it in tandem with traditional rug hooking. I mean, I don't know. I'm coming back to you. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hell no. Nope. No thanks, Satan. Not today. I was going to say I'm going to be close. I'm going to be close when I come back. I'm kind of excited. I have to admit, this was a bit of a disappointment because I did not foresee the U-turns, the U-bends. And yes, there is a way around that. But speed, for me, speed is a thing. So I don't know that these would bother me so much if, for example, there was rug hooking under it, right? If I was planning to hook around it, I don't think you would even notice that. This gets me, and this freestyle gets me unbelievable speed. It's interesting, isn't it? It's another thing to think about because, and weirdly enough, this idea, let me back up a little bit because this is too much, isn't it? Let me put you over here and I'll come down this way. Weirdly, I'll look up to you, right? Weirdly enough, this solves a few problems. It solves a problem of speed. For people who are looking for speed, it solves the problem of directional hooking. For those of you who are like, I really want some seriously pronounced directional hooking. I really want swirls. I want a Van Gogh like Van Gogh never Van Gogh'd, right? I want to really swirl. This will do it for you. And using a technique like this, yes, we're calling it chain stitch, right? Because it exists as a technique. And I'm sure people are already doing it, but I haven't done it. I've only done it in demonstrations with you. I've only done it one line here, one line there. Now I'm thinking of it differently because I was trying to use it the same way that I would use a needle, as you know, as an embroiderer, as a person who is holding a needle and doing a needle craft as opposed to a rug craft. I was trying to work that effect using this one stitch to do those things. And that's not something that I've done before, trying to use chain stitch. But I can see how in using chain stitch, we could be filling out, it could be more than just one of 100 stitches that you learn when you get Pearl McGowan certified, right? It could be something that you use all the time and that you're not switching to a needle or any other tool or crochet hook to do it. You're actually just doing it with your hook. Easy peasies. So again, we have not invented something, but I think if we start, but what I have figured out in doing this exercise is that I can using, I don't like using the strips so much, I have to say. It looks more like a leather braid, on like moccasin shoes or something like that. If that's what you're going for, that's the thing that you want. But I do like using that yarn. Or I think I would like using any yarn, maybe even softer yarn would be very nice. And in doing that, it's really showing me that I could get a lot done in a very short time if I'm doing like a background fill. I don't think you can get I don't think you can do this stitch without having some kind of direction showing. So what Diane was describing about pulling up higher and it being fluffier, yes, that is possible. It's going to be a moving target. Every different yarn you do the same technique with is going to come up differently. And on top of that, whether or not you're pulling it very, very tight or you're leaving it very high and lofty, yet again, a very different effect. So coming back to this conversation, we still don't know. We know it's a needlecraft because we know the backing. I think it's doing that one stitch. I still think it's the daisy stitch. I think it's made to look like Tunisian crochet, but I'm sure that this is the daisy stitch. I will do this one more time when we are doing our Friday show. We'll look at the rest of the things from this exhibit, and we'll look at Patricia's exhibit, the rugs that she showed us, and that we'll do that on Friday. But I still think that this is a needle doing the daisy stitch, and I'll show that to you on Friday when we conclude this particular conversation. But as far as what we did today, I think we got this effect. We understand what the parameters are doing this technique in rug hooking, holding a rug hook as opposed to a needle. And oh, Robin says, Deanna, take a look at the original photos of the Caswell carpet. This chain stitches. Yes, it absolutely is. It's Robin, thank you. I completely forgot about that. The chain stitch is, the Caswell carpet is all chain stitch. So yeah, so not daisy stitch. It's also called chain stitch. So I'm calling it chain stitch in rug hooking terms, but it is still called chain stitch in embroidery terms. Okay. Thank you, Robin. Thank you so much. The whole thing, you're right. The whole Caswell carpet is chain stitched. And so is like, if you get, if you have any of those sort of Indian scarves, that are like usually like a wool base, they're imported, you would recognize what it looks like. It looks like it's all embroidered. And it's chain stitched. They're all chain stitched like floral, and they usually have a colorful background. That's all chain stitched too. And you see examples of chain stitch that are like hundreds of years old on old textiles. Like you see occasionally in a sampler or in like, what are the German ones called? Damn it, I can't remember. The German ones that have all the sample pictures, like all these different motifs. Damn! You see a lot of chain stitch in that too. So chain stitch is a super old technique, and it's not even new to rug hookers. But I think when we're talking about doing something that looks like this using our rug hook, it really blurs the term rug hooking, because we have always said, oh, if you're learning how to rug hook, all you got to do is pull up loops, right? That's all we're doing. We're sitting around pulling up loops. And yes, that's true. But if we're incorporating not just like one line here, one line there, or a border, but expanses of background or whatever motif, right? If you are hooking a large part of your rug hooked piece with this kind of a stitch, whether you're going freestyle or you're doing it in lines like we're seeing here and like we tried first, it is totally going to look different because you are regarding this option as a stitch rather than like a trick, like a little sort of prestige thing. Oops, wait a minute. I just want to drag this one more time. Wait a minute. Come on. Are you serious? Wait a minute. There we go. And then if you do this, right, if you do this with your rug hooked piece, and we're seeing a lot of background that looks like these loops, but then you look closer like we did on Friday and say, oh, I don't think that is what that is. Wait a minute, what is that? That is interesting. That could really, if enough people start doing this, I'm not starting a revolution, I'm just saying in theory, follow this thought to its eventuality. And if enough people do this, it is going to change the way that we think that rug hooking looks, because you'll no longer be able to say it's just pulling up loop after loop. This is a little bit different. And realistically, there's probably a bunch of other stitches that we could do, that we could incorporate, that we could use as surface fill besides loops, right? And then that would really, in my mind, upset the definition of what is rug hooking, because so far it has been pulling up loops. It's an interesting conversation. It's an abstract conversation, and the answer doesn't really matter. What matters is that you feel like you saw me doing it. You saw how easy it is to do. I think one of our main complaints with as rug hookers is everything takes so damn much time. And when people come and watch you, practicing at a whatever, demonstrating, what's the first thing that everyone always says? It drives me crazy, but it's always, oh, I don't have the patience for that. People know it takes a lot of time. Something like this, still holding onto your rug hook without too much of a departure from what we do, could really get you a finished piece a lot faster. It is interesting. And then remember the possibility, like Sharon says, lots of possibilities. Tambour work is chain. Okay, so Diane says tambour work is what they refer to in India as chain stitch. Okay, but they also use it for fast beading. Okay, I'd like to look at that stuff close up again too, just to look at the stitches, because I've looked at them, but when I'm not in the context of this conversation, I'd love to look again, and particularly with the beading, right? I wonder if Grace Collette does a lot of this, because she does so much. She does so much with like fancy techniques and beading. I wonder if she does this chain stitch like the tambour work, but with a rug hook, and incorporates beading, because she's always incorporating beading. Although you couldn't do it at the same time, could you? Because you can't bead with your crochet hook. So at a certain point, you would have to switch to a needle. But it would absolutely work. Okay, let's see. Tambour work is chain. Diane says yes. Judy says tambour was the forerunner to crochet, I think. They worked chains through fabric, and then it occurred to someone to just do it in the air. That is so interesting. That is so interesting. Okay, well, I gotta go, but I love this conversation. It's really got me thinking, particularly because I know I've got some more roses to do for the rose book. I'm thinking maybe I'll do some of the background with the, now what, I mean, are we just going to keep referring to it between ourselves as like chain stitch, rug hooked chain stitch? I guess we have to, right? Otherwise it becomes very confusing. I don't think we can switch to tambour, because then people will be thinking that you're using a crochet hook. It's a tough call. I'm going to keep saying chain stitch unless we collectively decide otherwise. Wait a minute. Diane says, yes, you can bead with a hook. So Diane, if you bead with a hook, are you putting, I mean, you wouldn't like put like a seed bead on. It would be a bead with a big hole in it, right? And then would you be feeding the tail through the bead and then just continuing on with your hook? I guess what I'm saying is the hook wouldn't be feeding the bead, right? Because presumably the hook is bigger than the hole of the bead. Or maybe I'm being stupid. On the reverse side. Huh. So I don't understand how you could pull a bead up. I know there's probably something wrong with me. It's probably very obvious. Yeah, great to see you too, Catherine. Interesting. I don't get it, I gotta say. Rita says, when I bead, I use wire and crimps before I hook. Diane says, are you always seeing the back side of your work with tambour? No, I don't know, but I don't think you could be, because it's the same thing. You have to go cleanly through the loop to stitch back down. I think most tambour nowadays, the scarves that I'm talking about, those are definitely machine made. But I don't think you could do tambour from the wrong side. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm usually wrong. String beads into the yarn, but it's worked with the chain. Okay, so the string beads into the yarn. Okay, so you're putting the bead in, and then you're picking the yarn tail back up again, and you're continuing with your loop. That makes sense. So if you were doing that, you wouldn't be able to do that the way that I was just working with that yarn, because my yarn wasn't cut, right? That's like 300 yards straight off the ball that I was using. So if I was going to, I would need to be working with cut yarn if I were going to bead, right? Wouldn't I have to use cut yarn if I was going to string it through the bead? Um, okay. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Oh. You, you all are geniuses. Judy is saying pre-string. Holy mackerel. So if I have it pre-strung, a bunch of beads on that yellow yarn, I'm pulling it up. I can feel with my finger under the backing fabric, I can feel it when I want to pull it up. And if I don't want to pull it up yet, I could just push it further down the yarn and do some more chains before I pull up again. Oh boy. More than one way to accomplish it. Chain on the back. All right. Would have to flip the frame to keep beading. Okay. This is so interesting. This is my favorite thing, I think, when we talk about techniques fusing. Because, again, where do we meet? Where is the place in the deep, dark woods where these crafts meet? Every time we can create a situation or demonstrate a situation or brainstorm like this about where these different crafts meet, it is such a rich conversation because we learn so much. And imagination stuff, right? This is a fairly technical conversation, and technical stuff is not my favorite, but this kind of technical stuff is my favorite. And it's great, these kinds of conversations and thinking about using this technique more often in rug hooking as sort of the prestige of the piece, right? Not just like the border, not just to get a straight line, not just to do a bit of bling, but to actually use your hook to do this as a surface fill is something we definitely don't see often in rug hooking. And now we're talking about the possibility of being able to add beads to it and do all of these embellishments a lot faster than we're typically. And it's not about speed, right? It's not whoever gets there first is the winner. It's just for ourselves. It's just another technique that we can employ. It's a technique that gives you a different look, and it's a technique that has different possibilities. So I suppose the beading of the yarn to use for the chain stitch would be exactly the same as the beading of the yarn to use for traditional rug hooking, pulling up loops, right? If you pull up a loop and it has a bead on it, then it would work the same way, wouldn't it? Oh boy, I'm going to be thinking about this. Now I've got something else to think about when I wake up 20 times in the middle of the night to go pee. Judy says, you could have a second thread of beads. Yeah, you could. You could have a second set of beads and carry to carry with your yarn as two threads. You could have one that's completely beaded up and one that is your main carrier, and you could dip down and pull up the beaded one at intervals when you meant to. Holy mackerel! See diagram of tambour beading. LOL. I can't type. Okay, and Robin says, if you had two strings, right, Robin is right there too. If you had two strings, one on the backing, pre-strung with beads, threaded with a needle, regular hooking from the backside, that would be super fast too. I would be really, if I was going to add beads, I have to admit, I go the way of water. I go like the easiest way. That's just who I am, and I know it, so I have to embrace that. I have to admit, I get what we're saying with the beads, and it is definitely possible. Depending on the bead, too, and how, if it's watermelon nostril, or if it's just like going to pop right through your backing easy, I think for me it would depend on that as well. But I also think it's a very, very easy and fast thing to do to needle up at the end of it and be strategically placing your beads. And then you wouldn't be limited in any way to whether or not they would come up through the surface. You could put big ones that, are crazy big, or buttons or anything into those little gaps. There's so many possibilities here. I really am super excited. And you know what this technique that we were just doing, you know what this reminds me of? Punch needle, right? The backside of punch, the working side of punch needle. This is really what it looks like, isn't it? This kind of snaking thing that you get is very, the problem of ends and directional hooking is the same conversation as if you're doing punch needle. And for those people who kind of like the channel side, the working side of the punch needle, where you see all the comings and goings, this conversation would really appeal to those people, because those are people who already like to represent and to highlight directional hooking as part of their piece. Directional hooking brings energy to your piece. Just having a direction gives your fill interest. Sometimes you don't want interest. Sometimes you want the interest to be somewhere else. But when you do want, particularly in backgrounds and borders, when you do want a boring big expanse to have directional hooking, these are some great ideas that we're coming up with today, including incorporating the beading. Sky is the limit. Yeah, this is crazy. I love it. I love it. I'm really excited. Thanks for staying with me to do this kind of fooling around. There's no point in showing you the tree, but the tree is useful because you could draw anything and kind of fill it in however you wanted to. But I am really tempted to do something with this technique. I will go back to wool strips too, right? It's not like I'll never do this with wool strips again, because they're still really pretty and they really work. This is way faster. And particularly when it's not cut, it's way faster. If I think about it, if I was taking the kids somewhere, like to God forbid the trampoline park, where I go often, I could just, in theory, if I was filling in a background, have like a skein of yarn, my piece, and the hook, right? Sorry, I was thinking, or a hoop, but I still think it's easier to be on a frame. And I could just sit there with like hardly any supplies. Have you gone to a fiber festival lately where people are making these little yarn bags? Let me see if I have a piece of paper to show you. For knitting. Do you know what I mean? They go over the arm. Let me see if I can show you. And I was so jealous because I saw them at the fiber festival, and although I do knit, I'm not knitting anytime soon. I don't love it, and I love rug hooking, so I wouldn't knit. But they basically look like this. They drop down like this, and they look like that. And your arm goes through here, and you hold it, and the inside the bag, the yarn is in here, right? And it just comes out like that. And it's just the one skein. And I was thinking, oh man, I wish I was kind of a person doing the kind of a craft who could have one of those bags, because I could just kind of, it's just where I am in my life. I could just stand at the trampoline park with this one thing over my arm and just work from that. Of course, I still need my frame, but it still would be possible to kind of keep my yarn there, because you saw how it was rolling all over the floor and getting stuck in my frame, right? If I had it in one of those little bags and I was only using the one skein for a while until I switched skeins, that's very sort of low overhead, low threshold for pain and aggravation in terms of like how much crap do you need to bring when you're going to the place, whether it's the hotel room or the trampoline park or to a restaurant or whatever. Like how much stuff do you need to camel it, right? Do you need like a Sherpa and a camel, and you need to wheel in all your stuff? Or are you doing a background where you could just use like a skein like that? It's just like, wow, right? Because to me, one of the sort of banes of my existence is like the kids are always wanting to do something, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I gonna like? I have like a little suitcase with wheels and stuff with my supplies in it, and I usually bring that. But with just a little bit of forward planning, using a technique like this, I could get a whole background done while Joss is jumping or whatever's off. And then she comes home tired and I finish the background. That sounds good to me. That sounds like everybody wins. I'm always looking for wins in this world. Anyway, I better get going. I'm going to put some orders together. But I really enjoyed fooling around today. It really gave me some great ideas. I think you're going to see a lot of this chain stitch in a lot of pieces that I'm working on coming up, because just being able to fill part of it in that way with that kind of speed is really appealing to me. Not just for speed. I like the way it looks, and I see possibilities, and I see blending my Angelina, and I see blending other fibers together, and yeah, I see it being like a extremely practical, handy, and easy and fast way to get more pieces done, more full-size pieces. Anyway, I hope that was helpful to you too. I had a lot of fun. Diane says, love the mixed stitches, great hooking session and video. It was super fun. I'm glad we did this. And pony beads and yarn and tambour and hooking. Woohoo. It's like a Wizard of Oz. Yeah, there's some good possibilities here. All right. So, hey, have a great week, everybody. I'm trying to think about how the week is going to shake out. What is going on? Let me just check what's going on in case there's something coming up that's going to crush our plans. No crushing of plans. So I will be with you on Friday. On Friday, again, let's look at this stitch and needle point in needle. Let's look at chain stitch with a needle, just to give you the distinction, right? And just to complete the thought about what was going on in that particular piece. And then we will look at the rest of Danny's pieces because they went back to the exhibit and took more photos and more detailed photos and some photos of some more stuff. And I want to look at the photos that Patricia sent of the McGowan rug show that happened in New York. So let's do both of those things on Friday because that gives us a lot of content and a lot of inspiration all in one episode. I will see you on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will horse around together then. In the meantime, have a great week. Shoot me an email if you want to work on something for Magpie or on one of the book projects, or if you need anything. I will be right here. I'm just digging into all the stuff I got to get done. But I will look forward to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time